Jaime Munguia versus John Ryder, 12 rounds in the super middleweight division. This is going to be a very good fight. I'm actually looking forward to this one this year. Didn't see it coming, but I like it. Let's get into it. Let's start with Munguia. 41 wins. That's a lot of wins, man. 0 losses. 33 wins by way of knockout. We've covered Munguia a few times on the channel already, so I don't want to repeat too many of the same things. We're going to start with his most recent fight because I felt like we were going to learn a whole lot about Jaime Munguia against Derevyanchenko, right? From an experience standpoint, he hadn't fought anyone like him before. Someone who fought for a title a few times. Yes, he came up short, but he got that championship pedigree, that championship experience, right? Derevyanchenko fought Danny Jacobs in 2018, lost by split decision. I've spoken to a few people about that fight who can make cases to say that Derevyanchenko won that fight. After the loss, though, he fights Jack Culcay, Gennady Golovkin, Jamal Charlo, Carlos Adames, back to back, like Drake, back to back. Dude, that's a tough 4 fights. And he lost 3 of those straight, but the man gave everything that he had, gained those experience. So he's willing to fight anybody at any given time. A lot of people wrote him off. And last year, when he stepped into the ring to fight the young, hungry, punching Munguia, Derevyanchenko turned back the hands of time one more time. At the age of 37, he said, you know what? I can still give this guy some good work. And boy, did he ever do just that. If you are someone who don't respect either man before that, for whatever reason, this fight made you tip your hat to them. Fight goes off. Munguia brings the pressure early, talking first round. Right, you can see he was trying to close out the show as quickly as the fight started, right? And I thought both men stumbled each other in the first round. Munguia, who has good power, he's a good body puncher, he's an accurate puncher, but to me, he's a rhythmic fighter. Once he's in his groove, like he's tough to beat, he's tough to get out of that groove because he's also a risk taker. Right. And he's going to throw punches in bunches and flurries, and he's going to hit all of the parts of the body. He does a great job of finding the target that's needed and making sure that he touches just that. I think he's also got a good chin, right? Because Derevyanchenko landed some big shots and landed great body shots on him. And you could see it was bothering Munguia. Whenever Derevyanchenko went to the body, Munguia felt it. Right? Munguia did a great job, though, of not abandoning the jab early in the fight. He's usually someone who's always looking for the knockout, and sometimes he's headhunting a little bit too much, and we just want to see him set things up a little bit more. I thought he settled himself better in this fight than in previous fights before. He was having a lot of success when he would slow it down and use the jab to get the openings, to create separations and set his shots up. In the 4th round, that was one of Munguia's best rounds that I've seen of him since I've been watching him because of how he was setting up his shots. He was patient. Sometimes he forces the fight and doesn't need to. With all the skills and the tools and the talent and the ability that this young man possesses, you don't need to overextend yourself. You just need to add some patience to it, and the openings will come. You'll find them, but just slow it down a little bit, man. Munguia had success in the 4th. Derevyanchenko came back and had success in the 5th and had Munguia hurt, fighting off the back foot, kind of retreating a little bit. I thought in the 8th round, Munguia caught Derevyanchenko with a shot that caught him off balance, buckled Derevyanchenko's knees. I thought his knee touched the canvas. I mean, I watched that video a couple more times before I came on here and talking about it. His knee hit the canvas, but for whatever reason, the judges didn't call it a knockdown. I mean, maybe because he got up so quickly that, the judge was just, the ref was just like, wait a minute. Whoa, it was so quick. I didn't see it. I didn't know how the ref missed that one, but I digress. We move on. Because Munguia would get that same revenge in the 12th round with a beautifully timed body shot that dropped him and put him on the canvas officially in the 12th round to pretty much seal the win. And you could see after that, Munguia was trying to close out the show But rather than targeting the part where he had success, he just went back to headhunting, and he was not able to get the job done in a form of knockout. But it was a great fight for Munguia, a fight that he was tested, and we got to see how he was responding to that test. The talent is apparent, right? Physically, he can do a whole bunch of things. Offensively, he does a whole bunch of great things. Defensively, he's definitely going to need to make some improvement as he moves up, and faces the top tier guys, right? I think part of the reason why Derevyanchenko had some of the success that he had was because of his footwork and the movement and the angle changes, right? Angles to evade punches and angles to set up punches, I thought had a massive success for Derevyanchenko and gave Munguia problems when they fought. Because we know Munguia is a little bit flat-footed. So if you have good footwork, man, you can confuse him a little bit and slow him up a little bit and force him to think up here and not let these be the things that does the thinking for him. If you can get a fighter to be up here thinking 24/7 rather than doing, right? Not everybody can do two things at once. Floyd was great at that because he could think and he could fight at the same time. Sometimes you have someone who can do great physically, but the IQ may not be in that same ballpark. Munguia still got development in the IQ part, to me, in my opinion. So there are opportunities that you can confuse him a little bit and force him to think a couple rounds and allow him to be hesitant. But if he gets comfortable in his groove, man, it could be a short night. Like I think he is that good, in my opinion. So we'll see how he goes, man. It could be a long night for John Ryder if he's not careful, but we'll see how it goes. Let's talk about John Ryder. 32 wins, 6 losses, 18 wins by way of knockout. Ryder caught a second win in his career. Usually guys with too many losses don't get the same opportunities. Usually guys with more than 3-4 losses, you're not really getting a title shot. You're not really getting a title fight, right? He fought Callum Smith in 2019. And to that point, he had 4 losses already. And that was his 5th loss when he lost to Callum Smith. But I thought his fight with Callum Smith was one of his best fights, right? Because it was much closer than the scorecards were saying. If you just turn on the TV or you just went on Twitter or saw it on social media and saw the result and you watch the fight, it just makes you think, wait a minute. I saw a couple things John Ryder was doing that Callum Smith really didn't have an answer to, right? So it was interesting to see how that unfolded. But you watch the tape and you see John Ryder is relentless. He's a very good inside fighter, man. He's very skilled in certain departments that has made him successful. But above all, he's tough, he's durable, he's strong with the mentality of as long as I'm in the fight, you are going to have to work to beat me. After his loss to Callum Smith, he went on a 4-fight win streak with wins over Danny Jacobs and Zach Parker. Right? Come on now, John Ryder, man. You don't have any business beating those guys at this stage in your career. To beat a former champion and to beat one of the up-and-coming top domestic fighters in the UK in Zach Parker. But he did, right? And he fought great in both of those fights. Ryder isn't the biggest guy, but he's got a nice reach, right? And he's strong, as I said, built, strong, compact, durable. He's coming to work, right? He doesn't do a whole lot of things exceptionally great, but he does a lot of things really good, right? He needs to be able to close the range for him to really get busy, right? He's not a guy who's going to outbox you. He's going to try to brawl you a little bit and try to slip in shots. That's when he's going to have his success. If he can make this fight, that rough and tough and uncomfortable fight for Jaime Munguia, wrapping him up using physical brute force, he's going to make things a lot tougher for Munguia, right? Because if you get too emotional against John Ryder, it can be frustrating to fight him because that's when he's going to slip in those uppercuts. That's when he's going to use his physical strength to impose his will on you. In his most recent fight, he fought Canelo Alvarez. I'm sure that was his biggest payday for him. Shout out to John Ryder for getting that payday, man. I want every fighter to always make as much as they can while they're in the sport. We know what Canelo can do, right? From a physical standpoint, both men looked, physicality-wise, looked very similar in stature, But Ryder did not come to lay down in that fight. He came to fight. He gave everything that he had in that fight. In the third round, I mean, he had blood coming down his nose. Blood was gushing out. He was still coming forward, still believing, still trying to figure out what Canelo was trying to do, and now he could capitalize off that. We know what Canelo can do, man. We've been watching Canelo for a while. We know Canelo is accurate. He's got power, come forward type of style, that pressure. I thought Canelo was going to be able to stop John Ryder, especially with all the blood coming down, and then he drops him in the fifth round with that straight hand middle right down the pipe, right through John Ryder's high guard. But you have to give credit to John Ryder, right? And give him all the credit because it was a one-sided fight. And usually in a one-sided fight, a fighter knows that it is not going in their favor and they get frustrated or they kind of just give up a little bit. But John Ryder, man, he just kept getting up, right? He just kept getting up, kept fighting, and never stopped trying. And you could tell his body wanted to go, but the heart, the determination, the will, something inside of him kept him up the full 12 rounds. But let's not get it twisted, man. I watch it like how you watch it. John Ryder got beat up for 12 rounds, right? He got beat up badly, and he did land some nice shots on Canelo as well in his own right. But it kind of reminded me of the movie Rocky, right? Like Rocky got beat up badly in some of those fights that he got the win. And he just kept getting back up before he gained momentum, and the other guy kind of just faltered a little bit. And Rocky kept coming forward and kept fighting, kept fighting, kept fighting. And Ryder did that. The only difference was that Rocky is a movie. And in reality, you can't get hit that many times too often when you're fighting the best and expect it to work in your favor. But again, my hat goes off to Ryder. It was a valiant effort against Canelo Alvarez. So who wins? Ryder is no doubt going to make us tough. He's not coming to lay down by no means. That's not him. Ryder has been in a lot of fights over the years, and those take a little bit out of you. The fight against Canelo at 35 years old takes a little bit out of you. The punishment that you take takes a little bit out of you. Does he have another battle like that left in him? Because Munguia is kind of like that younger version of Canelo to some extent. Similarities here and there, but I'm talking about in the sense of coming forward and willing to trade right there with you, willing to let your hands go, willing to bang, going to bring the pressure. Does he have one more of those war-type fights left in him? Munguia is coming off of the biggest, toughest fight of his career facing Duryachenko. And those fights take a little bit out of you as well. Either Munguia comes out and has another great, spectacular performance, maybe even gets the stoppage in the latter rounds, or it takes him a while to get going and the fight goes the distance. Ryder obviously has to make this an in-close fight. He has to fight smartly, bring calculated pressure, right? And just make this a ugly, rough, tough, grueling, tying up, bear hugging, slipping in shots, grueling type of fight. He's not as skilled as Munguia, and some of their movements kind of look the same from a footwork standpoint. The other thing too is, right, Ryder has only been stopped once before. Even when he fought Canelo, he didn't get stopped. So that makes things very interesting. While I think Munguia can stop Ryder, especially if he goes to the body early, I'm leaning towards Jaime Munguia winning this fight by decision. I got to give Ryder the respect here because, man, I mean, he went 12 rounds to some guys that I didn't think that he was going to be able to. So you have to respect that chin and that durability of him throughout the fight. But I would not rule out a late stoppage towards the end of the fight, probably by some type of body shot, man, depending on if Munguia slows it down and doesn't headhunt and targets the body. But I think this fight goes the distance. I like Jaime Munguia by decision. What are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you have winning this one? Let me know in the comment section below. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a couple ways you can do so. You can like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support by way of donation, you can find options in the description below. Also, my Cash App handle will be on screen as well. Any amount goes towards the growth of this channel. It'll be greatly, greatly appreciated. Shout out to all the members holding down the membership section, man. I appreciate each of you. So with all that being said, if you've been watching the video, this time do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.